A year ago at this time, I should have been anxiously awaiting the XFL's championship game. And honestly, it wouldn't even have mattered if my team, the Seattle Dragons, wasn't playing. It still would have been must-see TV for me. And like practically everything outside of esports, the XFL season was canceled in early March of 2020 after just 5 weeks. And this time was because of a factor outside of the league's control, unlike what had been the case for the Alliance of American Football the year prior. Now, I watched the NFL, the CFL, and this year I've been watching the fan-controlled football league. I'm just simply a football fan. But nothing really stacks up in terms of entertainment value to what was put on the field by the XFL in 2020. The production blended traditional sports broadcasting with what became over-the-top, almost wrestling-like style sideline interviews. It was unscripted, nearly uncensored, and very much real football in a way the viewers got to really share it and experience even when they were watching it at home on TV. Without it even being a direct intention of the league, the 2020 iteration of the XFL featured what I would call characters. In fact, I made a video last year about Matt McGloin, the Guardians quarterback, who was really the first heel or bad guy in the league. And assumably it's not because Matt McGloin intended to do this, but because the league took his real frustrations that normally never would receive more attention than, maybe just a camera angle of them throwing a helmet, and they let him air it out verbally in the game broadcast.
This team need to do on offense to get something going here?
We need to change the whole entire game plan at halftime.
Okay, what do you need to change about the game plan? What are you frustrated about?
There's just a lot going on right out now. It's embarrassing for us here as an offense, so a lot of things we want to fix and correct.
There are many NFL players that may have done or said the same thing McGloin did, and maybe something even worse during their own rough games. The difference is the NFL has a kind of stopgate. It doesn't let players air these things out immediately after they happen, and it doesn't definitely encourage them to do so during the game broadcast. The XFL was transparent in a way that I've never ever seen, not even from a league like the fan-controlled league where fans are even calling the plays. You think that's transparency, but in reality, the fan-controlled league does have this Wendy's hot mic, and then it usually turns into a little bit more than just screaming. And while you do see players, kind of jiving with each other on the sidelines, you just don't really get that sort of insight that you had in the XFL. And when little else was on last year during the start of the shutdowns, I actually took the time to watch the 2001 XFL games. I didn't watch them all, but I did watch some of the more notable close games. Now, disappointingly, the 2001 iteration did not live up to its 2020 counterpart, in my opinion. For me, I thought things in 2001 seemed a little bit over the top, to an extreme, really. And the format felt too forced. The conversations didn't seem to happen naturally or in a way that was believable like it was in 2020. Not to mention the quality of play that was put on the field in 2020 was just straight up better compared to 2001. Now, I trust The Rock will bring the XFL back in 2022 like he says he plans to, and hopefully he maintains much of what made the 2020 product great. Now, with new ownership, it could be tempting to make some strong arm changes, but I really hope they stick to what has worked, and the 2020 format really without, just a couple issues worked very well. All you need to do is get competent young players to put on an acceptable skill set of play on the field and make the quality of broadcast and the overall atmosphere of going to and watching these games be the distinguishing factors that set the league apart. And most of all, it would be interesting to see how the rosters shift in 2022. The players who were a part of the league in 2020 have all moved on. I mean, some received NFL shots, some are, maybe currently going to play in the FCS or the CFL this year, but likely the majority of them have moved on with their lives and pursued other careers. And that's what you'd expect out of a league like this ultimately. A few will continue on, but the majority will find something else to do. So in 2022, with this gap in time, they're going to have to put together new rosters, but it seems likely that the team names, mascots, and assumably even the cities from the 2020 XFL will remain going forward. But again, I think the rosters will look completely different and entirely reshuffled to the point where the majority of the players in the league will be different, not just on the teams. And it'll be an interesting shift, particularly as a Dragons fan. It's a much needed shift considering the struggles we had in those first 5 games of 2020. Now, as we get closer to the opening of training camps for this 2022 season, I'm assuming that'll happen, sometime near the end of 2021. It'll be exciting who the league is able to bring in as far as talent goes. We've seen the FCS bring in some pretty talented but troubled guys, and I don't think the XFL quite wants to go down that troubled player recovery sort of route, but I think they can definitely pull in some great talent that maybe didn't quite make it in the NFL. Now, if you've never watched either iteration of the XFL, be it 2001 or 2020, I highly recommend watching the full games, many of which are available on YouTube, or at least their highlights are. The entire 2001 season is available in something like 240p. It looks terrible, but I guess that's what the original poster had when they're pulling from VHS tape recordings. There's another channel that has it in 480p, some of those original 2001 games. That's probably the way to go, so I'll have one of those games linked down in the description so you can find that channel and check out some of the other games on there. Thank you guys for watching. I'm Bailey, and I will see you in the next video.